Hey everyone, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I have with me Neil Bedwell, who's the co-founder of Local, which is localindustries.com. Welcome to the show.
Hey Jason, good to be with you.
Awesome, man. And today we're going to talk about how change marketing can transform your business. And we want to start off by talking about what change marketing is. And I actually don't know what it is. So explain it to me first and our audience, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, I'm going to be humble and say, we feel like we invented this thing, but there's no such thing as an entirely new creation. This is just an amalgamation of stuff that has been proven out there in the corporate world for years. So I am a career marketing guy, consumer marketing guy, brands. You can tell by the accent. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, but I am not local, even though the company is. So I've worked in ad agencies in London, been in Amsterdam, San Francisco, and then ran digital marketing for Coca-Cola here in Atlanta for a few years. So that's my background. And we took everything we know about consumer marketing, reaching those hard to engage folks who walk past our billboards, scan over our ads, flick off the TV when our copy comes on. We took the same techniques and then melded them with some of the progressive models from change management, trying to actually understand how organizations are structured, how information flows through complex corporate cultures, stick those two things together, change marketing.
Got it.
So marketing to the same way you do on the outside to consumers, we're doing it on the inside to employees.
So how do you actually apply that in a startup of us? Because most of my listeners are entrepreneurs or startup owners. They don't have Fortune 100 companies. And so how would you apply that same tactic to a smaller business?
Well, let's think about startups not as small companies, but growing companies, right? So every one of you guys, just like us, we might be small compared to the competition and small compared to our clients, but we have ambition. So
right.
The principles that we apply to, a company of 450,000 employees, I think you can also apply to 40 company of 45 employees. Yeah. So yeah, I know. But think of it like this. I
don't think I would want a company of that size, to be honest with you. That just seems like a little bit too much.
Yeah, hopefully by that point you've sold it a couple of times over, right?
Yeah.
And then, you're sitting on a beach. So if you think about large old legacy companies, whether they're 25 years old or 200 years old, there tends to be some cultural ailment there that you're trying to cure. You're trying to rebuild gaps, breaks, fractures in culture.
Interesting.
If you're young, if you're small, you haven't got those problems yet.
Right.
Like a young person versus an old person.
You're still you're actually figuring out your culture, right? And like the vision of your business. Yeah. So you don't actually have it yet. Whereas the older companies are kind of set in their ways, right?
Yeah, and they have a lot of legacy. They have a lot of bad things that have happened over the years, which cause those aches and pains that they're feeling now. So if you think that's what we often do is provide some level of cure, we're coming in trying to help meld some of those things. Let's switch this to care, preventative care, right? How to grow up without getting sick. So if you think of it that way, there's a couple of things that you can do that we do for these large companies that you can apply internally. The first one is really the founding philosophy of our company, which is you don't employ people. They're called employees, but you don't employ people. Like you don't. Companies don't sort of own the people that work for them. Companies are the people that work there. And we recognize that the only thing that you can do with a paycheck is mandate attendance. Right? You can mandate that I show up at the time that you told me to show up. But do I care? Do I believe in what the company's doing? Am I going to bring my whole self? Am I going to bring am I going to give you everything I got?
Well, that falls down to how you're treated, right? I mean,
you have to earn that.
When someone said, I just saw a meme online, everyone saying they have to go back to work in the office, and it said, "Oh, my boss says I have to be in the office because of the company culture." And it's a picture of a cubicle. So like, so if you, so like where,
That's right.
right? So like so what's the company culture with that, right? So is that, so I like what you're saying. You're saying like you're getting paid to be here, but do you care to be here? It's our job as a company to
To earn
make you
it.
care, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you make people care
Well,
to actually come in?
God, and you're so right. You think about the paycheck not as your investment in those human beings, but as the cost of admission, right? So that now that they're here instead of somewhere else, now I have to invest. And there's a number of different ways you can do it. And it's not always about just benefits or bonuses. Most of the reason people are leaving work right now is down to feeling valued. So take
Mhm.
that word, valued. Am I valued here? So there's a number of different ways that you can do that. One is we start with belief. How can you get people to believe in the vision of the company? Now, if you're a small company with a founder like me, I'm a co-founder here, sitting right next to somebody who joined us a week ago, I can relay that. But as you get bigger, you get this thing called cultural dilution from the founder. So you sit there at the epicenter, and the further away new employees are from the rings, if you like,
Yeah.
from the center, it's harder to get that. So you have to work to make sure that you're not the only one who's actually fostering the story that the company about the company. That the story is being told peer to peer. It's being shared around you. Culture is created not by you, but by everybody else. We have a lot of smart people that work here, but one of our guys always talks about it. Culture is the thing that happens when you're not looking as
Hmm.
a leader. So if you can think of it that way, how can you foster good things that are happening when you're not looking? So start with belief. The second one I think is around adoption. If you want people to adopt certain behaviors, give them chances to do that. Help them learn it. Give them something to follow. Give them the time to learn how to do that. And then the third is probably the most interesting, which is one of the problems we see in large companies is they're really quite good at adoption, quite good at training, right? So they'll invest a lot in getting somebody to try and do something. But then when you go back to their wonderful cubicle after that, nothing's changed, right? So they hear the speech on the town hall stage, they get the
Yeah.
training, and then they go back and it's like, oh, so that was like a vacation, and then I'm back in my house again.
Yeah,
Nothing's
it's
different,
more like it's a try to motivate them to do well, and like here's what we want to do, but then you sit at your desk and you realize you're back at square one again, right?
Totally.
And I think that's another issue with corporate America, especially, is people realize that in the end, whatever it is they signed up for, as you mentioned, the price of admission, it's just a job. Whereas
Just a
a
job.
lot of people, they want more than just a job. They want to feel heard. They want to feel like their ideas are valued. They want to feel like they are impacting the company or the business in some shape, way, or form, which is why people like startups. So is that part of what you guys are doing to help like the larger
Yeah,
companies, like saying you got to listen to your employees, you got to cater to their ideas a little more?
100%. You said that word, impact. Nobody wants to wake up and look at their day and think it's meaningless, right? Nobody wants to show up and be mediocre, right? We actually want to know that when we punch a bunch of numbers into a spreadsheet or we drive a truck around a city, that it made a difference in some way, right? It can't just be about the fact that I show up and then take the money and go home again.
Right.
And I think that in our modern world, we're kind of separated, most of us, from the impact of our labors. Now, if you work on a front line and you got a distressed customer and you help them and take them through that, and then they're less distressed, well, you did something, right? But most of us who are down the production line, or down the supply chain somewhere, aren't seeing that. So if you're building a company, how do you make sure you hardwire the meaning that's created by the company back to every single person in that
Yeah, because you bring
organization?
up a great point, because a factory worker doing the same widget over and over again all day long isn't seeing the benefit of the end result of the product that he or she's creating, versus a nurse or a doctor saving a life and the person is walking out of the hospital that day.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They get to see the person living, and then, but so there's got to be a happy medium in there, right? Of being able to somehow make the factory worker visualize the person walking out of the hospital in their respective industry.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that with. This is where I'm going to bang the marketing drum. You can do that with stories. You can show them, even if you can't take them there, even if they can't hug the person that they just helped. You can at least, when somebody delivers a package, take a logistics, a role. You deliver a package. It's not a box. It's something that person needs. Maybe it's medicine. Maybe it's the tool that they needed to fix the problem at home. It's you're giving them value. You're giving them meaning. So you can understand that with every single one of those things that you do, you're actually moving something forward. You're actually helping somebody. Tell those stories. Share those stories. It's often that we just kind of ignore that emotional need that employees have, that folks who work for you have, to actually see the value of their labors. And we talk about just sort of the growth of the company. I want to know how my work has helped somebody else. I also want to know, not just on the outside, I want to know how my work's helped my colleagues. And I want to know how what I do helps me.
And you mentioned the growth,
relationships, impact.
And you mentioned the growth of the company too. And historically, as we know, growth of the companies out there have benefited the top, percentile of the executive people at the company, and they're the ones with the golden parachutes, and they're the ones earning the large amounts of money. Mm-hmm. Whereas the rest of the company, like you said, price of admission. So we need to be able to get the trickle down effect actually happening, where the value of the growth of the business actually matters to the employees. And that, if right now, it doesn't matter, because the stock goes up 1 point and the shareholders are happy, but the 500, like you mentioned, 450,000 employees are not happy because they're still punching those numbers. They're not seeing any benefits. So I like the storytelling. How do you get that storytelling in their hands? Are we talking videos that are created for them? Are we talking about bringing clients or customers into the business to show them like the perks that they're receiving? Like how do we do this?
So I want to hit one point, and then I'll get to that one if that's all right with you. You mentioned about the sharing in the goodness that the company creates. Somebody told me, and I believe and hope that this is true, that actually the word company, derived through Latin, through French, is actually means, it basically in simplified form means the communion around bread. We come together, we gather the ingredients, we make bread together, and we share it. In this case, we do all those things, we make bread, and then somebody else takes it, which is kind of what's happening. We don't get to see it like, oh, who's your bread?
I made a sandwich for you.
yeah, you're welcome. So the how you do this, well, think of, I think I said this at the top of the show, think of your employees, not as employees, but as internal customers. How do you get someone to care about your product on the outside? How do you get someone to care about your product on the outside? Do you mandate their attendance to a 2-hour webinar? Probably not. You try and win them over with things that mean something to them. You try and find a role for your business, brand, product in their lives. Try and find a role for the vision of your company in the lives of your employees. So you can do that. I mean, think first way where to start is listen to them.
I was about to say weekly focus groups with surveys and pizza, hey, every week on Tuesday, we need you guys in this room to tell us what you think about our products. And we're going to give you pizza or healthy foods, whatever you want.
About the company.
Because we care what you think. But do they do that? I mean, do companies do that?
Some of the best ones do.
Okay. That's good
old
news.
boss of mine and kind of, marketing hero of mine, she used to say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should use them in that ratio. So listen twice and talk once.
Well, yeah.
And so, I mean, even just a little, even just shutting up for a minute and actually listening to, and going out and spending time with your different groups of people in different places. They used to say, we say it a lot with big corporate employees, ride the truck. Get out of the head office and ride the truck and see what it's really like out there, and then you might actually think about how the thing you want needs to be reshaped to exist meaningfully in the lives of these employees that you have. Are they, you talk about intranets and email. In a lot of companies where there's manufacturing or external logistics, they don't have email, they don't have intranet. Right. If you want to talk to someone, you actually have to talk to them.
Yeah.
So there's different ways of doing that. People are busy. They don't have an hour to watch a video, so do it in 30 seconds. Just think about them as customers and then behave like that. And I think you'll go an awful long way towards where you want to be.
I love it, man. So if we had to summarize what it is you guys do and what a business owner should do to maybe employ some of these tactics, how do you wrap it up? And where can people find you?
Yeah, what we do for most often larger employers, 5,000 employees and more tends to be, the spot that we work in. We help new ideas travel through companies by building marketing programs, communications programs to engage employees before it happens, as it happens, and after it happens, so that they actually willingly welcome the change as something positive for them. You can read about us. We've got case studies and other stuff going on at localindustries.com. And for the folks, the folks with the smaller growth companies, we're just rolling out now a change marketing university. It's basically everything we know wrapped up into a really interesting, progressive kind of training course. Learn it, take it on, build it through the organization as you grow, because you don't want to get sick when you're 10 times the size as you are now.
That sounds awesome, Neil. Thanks so much. And everyone, check out localindustries.com. Check out the Startup University. That sounds really cool. And use some of the tactics you learned in this episode of change marketing. Thanks again, Neil. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
We'll see everybody in the next episode.